workshop, and today we're going to learn how to print your own vintage style graffiti t-shirt, either an all over print like you can see in these t-shirt designs, or the one on the left where you just put a single word. It's completely up to you. Now before you get going, you need to probably go and get inspired for shapes and lettering, and actually using this technique it doesn't even need to be graffiti actually, but today that's what we're going to focus on. The good thing about graffiti is that it's bold, it's current, and you can choose any word to depict that you desire. So go ahead, think about the one that you want to use. The two main pieces of equipment for this skill are baking parchment that you can find in your kitchen cupboard, and also oil pastels. Oil pastels are essential. It has to be that product, not wax crayons, not felt tips. It's to do with the transfer of the pigment in the oil from the baking parchment into the fabric, and you're going to find out a little bit more about that later. Okay, so I've chosen my particular word. I've chosen the word epic, and the great thing about baking parchment is that you can draw straight onto it. If you make a mistake, just get another sheet, and when it's finished and you're happy with your lettering, so I've drawn that with a Sharpie pen, you could do it also with a pencil, is you turn it upside down, you flip it, and you can still see the letter but back to front. And this is where you're going to add your colour on the back. So the main thing about graffiti is that often they use this fade technique, fading seamlessly from one colour to another. So you can see that I've chosen the fade from yellow through to red, and at the bottom from red through to purple and blue. So getting my range of colours, I've started to apply the oil pastel to the top of the letters, firstly in yellow, fading through to orange, then darker orange, and then red. I've used the oil pastel really quite thickly. You don't want a thin layer. If you want to check how thickly it's going to iron on, hold it up to the light and you'll be able to see if you've put enough on your piece. If it looks a little bit flimsy and thin, just add some more. And then in the bottom right hand corner there, you can see I've flipped the baking parchment, and clearly you can see the letter from the front, how it's going to look when you print it on the t-shirt. I've then added some outlining using a darker blue, and then at the end of all of that, a middle picture, I've outlined again, almost leaving a halo around the letters in black, and you get that typical graffiti effect. Flipping it around to view, you can see what the finished effect will be. Okay, now you're ready to transfer this print. So placing a clean sheet of baking parchment inside your t-shirt, I'm going to print this one on the back, but equally you can print it on the front of the t-shirt. Make sure it's spread nice and straight so that you haven't got any wrinkles, and take it over to your ironing station. Make sure you've covered your ironing board maybe with a towel just to protect it, so that you don't get any oil pastel on your ironing board. Okay, so I've now got my iron switched without steam, switched to the highest temperature. And because the oil pastel is on the back of the baking parchment, I now don't need to cover this with anything else, and I'm going to start to iron. And you need to iron for a fairly long time, 5 minutes at least at high temperature. Adding pressure, making sure you don't shift the baking parchment from its original position, because you don't want to get a double print effect. So print really carefully onto the t-shirt. It doesn't have to be a t-shirt, it could be a cloth bag, it could be a pillowcase. It's up to you what you want to design onto, but a t-shirt's obviously an immediate thing where you can wear your artwork. Okay, so I've finished ironing, I've peeled off my baking parchment, and there's my first transfer. Now, it is meant to look a bit vintage. Vintage as in it's been washed a few times, it's a little bit faded, it's got that kind of 1970s style feel. So if you want to enhance your print and you're not happy with the faded impact, what you can then do is, using that as a guide, because you've got your print there, is just work some oil pastel over the top of your print. It's a little bit tricky to oil pastel onto fabric, so you might want to stretch the fabric out with your fingers as you go. So I've enhanced my print there a little bit more, strengthening up the yellows and the oranges and the reds and the purples in places. And then you just need to get a fresh sheet of baking parchment and iron again for another 5 minutes. Do make sure you don't iron directly onto the oil pastel because it will ruin your iron, and that would be a great shame. Once this is done, you can see you have your lovely print. It should be hand washable at a medium temperature. I probably wouldn't bung this in the actual washing machine. If you do want to try washing it in the washing machine, just put it on a cool wash. And there you go, you have a easily printed, professional look graffiti style tee. I hope you have some real fun creating some effects like this. And remember, you could do this all over a t-shirt. It doesn't have to just be in the centre. Just keep repeating the technique until your t-shirt is covered to suit your style and your ideas.